So then the next thing of false opposition is the rapture cult, New Age Christianity, and how the conspiracy gets us to think that there's nothing that we can do or should do because it's all a part of the plan. The Savior is going to come, and if we stop the world from being evil, then that slows down and delays the second coming. New Age Christianity removes key gospel principles and replaces them with ideas to disarm resistance. That's what New Age Christianity does. Preaches Christ, but not the gospel. Preaches blessings, but not the requirements and punishments. The Bible, they say, is not a historical document. It just has good truths in it. The Bible is not literal. It's just a figurative principles. Jesus is a mere saving event, not your Savior. They point only to Jesus, and of course, there is no God the Father. And so we talk more about this in our weekly member trainings every Monday night for members, and it's recorded, and so members can go back and watch them afterwards if they can't come on live. So let's look at the next thing, is the myth of peaceful resistance. What we're told by people that are controlled in the controlled media is that violence gives evil power. But of course, they fear violence themselves. That's why they surround themselves with people with guns. They say that we're supposed to just turn the other cheek and follow the Prince of Peace. Saying that Jesus just sat there and took every bad thing that ever happened, when of course Jesus fought the conspiracy. We just got to obey the government. Romans 13, 12th article of faith. We just got to do whatever the government says. But God is the lawgiver, and he tells us to not obey fake laws. Then the conspiracy says that success only comes through the political or judicial process. We only do this through the ballot box and through the judicial process. But of course, those acceptable channels are structured to destroy good efforts. The elections are rigged, the courts are controlled, they're designed to keep your wheels spinning and not actually doing anything. And of course, we're supposed to not give the conspiracy an excuse to attack you. But the fact is that the conspiracy has already declared war on you and your family. We'll talk about some of those examples. Right? Why would these tyrants all want to take away your guns if violence doesn't work? Why do we have the conspiracy setting up the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms to ban guns if violence didn't work? Why would they surround themselves with the things they want to take away from us? Why are they so afraid? Where we have here this report of the Utah governor speaking out about taxpayer-funded security project at his Fairview home, where he spends hundreds of thousands of dollars to protect himself from what? Probably some punk kids shooting a BB gun through his window. But Jesus did fight the conspiracy. Matthew chapter 10, the Lord himself said, "Think not that I come to send peace on earth. I come not to send peace, but a sword." Matthew chapter 21, he says, "And the multitudes that went before and that followed cried, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. And when he was come to Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, Who is this? And the multitude said, This is Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves." Wasn't peaceful resistance. John chapter 2, verse 15, he made a whip of cords and he drove all of them out of the temple. This is not peaceful resistance. Of course, we have God is the lawgiver. Isaiah chapter 33, verse 22, the Lord is our judge. The Lord is our lawgiver. The Lord is our king. No king but King Jesus, as the founder said. Isaiah again, hear the word of the Lord, ye rulers of Sodom, give ear unto the law of our God, ye people of Gomorrah. 1 Samuel, we learn, and now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling ox and sheep, camel and ass. The Council of 50 in 1844, they said that no other government, kingdom, dominion, authority, power, rule, or law shall be acknowledged by my people except for God's laws. So we see here these acceptable political channels are destructive to you and your liberty. They are They are modern solutions because they are put there by the conspiracy. They've never been used in the past at any point in history to actually restore lost liberty. And so that's why they want you working on them, because they know they don't work. Because things, right, when we follow these paths, things continue to get worse. And realize the conspiracy has already declared war on you. They're attacking you and your family because you want to keep your income. They are attacking you through medical and through weather and through food. They are attacking you through propaganda and child abuse in the government schools. We have here in Arizona, child welfare workers fired for wearing professional kidnapper shirts. They were actually wearing shirts that said, "We are professional kidnappers." It wasn't just an isolated incident. You have the police working against the people. You have, of course, the COVID shutdowns. Let's look at maybe some examples of success using more aggressive terms or forms of solutions. The founding fathers said it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. They did not write King George and say, "Please give us our rights back." Captain Moroni said, "Whosoever would not take up arms in the defense of their country, but would fight against it, were put to death." You would not fight for freedom, you forfeited your life. In the book of Joshua, we learn, and they burnt the city with fire and all that was therein, only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and of iron, they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. And then Gideon, in the book of Judges, we learn that he stepped forward and killed them and took the ornaments off the camels' necks. The Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you, your son, and your grandson, because you have saved us from the hand of Midian." Now, this doesn't always work, but it works more than that which never works. So now, examples of necessary violence. Jesus taught, "Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I come not to send peace, but a sword." And then he says, "Suppose that I am come to give peace on earth? I tell you, nay, but rather division. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies and destroyed those murderers and burned up their city." So those are examples that these things have to be done sometimes. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And it's contentious. They say that, that opposing them, that, we need to disagree better, that it's contentious to disagree with them. It's actually contentious to continue to allow evil. There's a fantastic book called Kill No Murder that was written in the 1600s that the founding fathers referenced and were aware of, that talked about how if you have the opportunity to stop a tyrant and you don't, you are culpable for the injury caused by that tyrant. So now the conspiracy promotes peaceful resistance because they had a problem. Looking at India as the example. The Bengals were physically attacking occupying crown officials and ransacking crown-friendly businesses and businesses that sold British goods, right? So India was being controlled by Britain, and so you had a group of rebels that were just causing them a lot of problems. And so in 1905, the British partitioned Bengal into Hindu and Muslim provinces. And this restricted the cooperation of the Hindus and Muslims against the crown. They couldn't get them to work together. They separated them. And the conspiracy wanted to make those friends enemies. That's why they're enemies to this day because of this. The partition intensified Bengal resistance, and they began the work of assassinating crown officials, actually. Assassination attempts killed 2 women related to conspirators. Bengal resistance, and they began the work of assassinating crown officials, actually. Assassination attempts killed 2 women related to conspirators. And so those caught and executed for this work were honored as heroes by the Bengals because they understand this eternal principle. The judge, prosecutor, and arresting officer were all also assassinated after this man's execution. The conspiracy feared for their safety. They knew they had to do something to stop this resistance. And so they put up their own false opposition in Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi's character, his job was to disarm the people and to make sure that there was no resistance. It appears that 20,000 Afghans have taken the field. The unrest is spreading all over India. A white woman was killed by an explosion. The cablegrams suggest that the intention of the assailant was to kill a magistrate. The Indian people will not win their freedom through these methods. In the end, the methods which we imagine we would use only against foreigners will be used against ourselves. So this idea of we don't want to give them a reason to attack us. Otherwise, it'll be used against us. Yes, many members of the Indian civil service are tyrannical, but what does that signify? If they have lost some of the moral fiber, it is a reflection upon ourselves. It's our fault that we're being tyrannized, Gandhi said. So this is the public image again of this man of peaceful resistance, that he was a man that he was poor, and that he was just the voice of the people, that he was celibate, and that he was a dedicated religious man, but he was an outsider, that he just rose to prominence naturally, and that he helped create a free India, and that he was peaceful, effective, and an enemy of the conspiracy, and he was murdered by just some lone nut. But what's the real Gandhi? He was born to the governor of Parbandar, India, in a 3-story, 17-room mansion waited on by servants. He got his law degree from the Honorable Society of the Inner Temple in London, founded by the Knights Templar. He was a member of the Esoteric Christian Union, an arm of the Lucifer Trust, now called the Theosophical Society. And he worked closely with and lifelong friend with the head of the Lucifer Trust. You see here that he was born into the conspiracy, that he was actually extremely wealthy. He was educated in the most insider British school that money could buy. He was self-admittedly followed the doctrines of the Lucifer Trust. He quelled an uprising against the conspiracy. He was losing popularity so needed that 6-year jail sentence for street credibility. So they sent him to jail to make it look like he was one of them. Of course, he only served for 2 years, and then he worked to establish a new state for the conspiracy led by the Indian National Congress, and then was assassinated as a propaganda campaign to stir contention between Muslims and Hindus and to make him look like a real enemy of the conspiracy. This was a character that was created to disarm any true resistance to the conspiracy, and he pretended the fault of the oppressors lied with those that were oppressed. He led people to believe that evil men can be swayed by reason and good sentiments. These guys aren't bad, they just don't understand. They need to be talked to. He helped transition India to its next place in the conspiracy's plan, Muslim-Hindu balkanization, for generating conflict and a government that pretends to represent the Indian people. Create this conflict so that they have to come in, this false conflict, so that they're distracted fighting each other instead of fighting the real enemy. And of course, his own death was a propaganda campaign. So now let's get into this video that talks about what happened in Seattle in about 2000, called the Battle of Seattle. It's a really good example of how this overall principle that we've talked tonight about false opposition works, because it's important. We've listed names, we've shown you individuals, but individuals change, organizations change, and so it's essential that we understand and grasp the principle so that we can identify the next false opposition that comes up. So with that, let's watch this real quick.
Street demonstrators turned the area of the World Trade Organization conference into a war zone. Over 500 National Guardsmen and state police are called in to help restore order in what became known as the Battle of Seattle. The major media focused on the chaos and the mob's demands.
Let them go!
Yet they carefully avoided raising the issue as to how the groups on the street were organized and funded, or whether their leaders might have a hidden agenda. Instead, the media portrays such demonstrations as natural outpourings of genuine grassroots concern.
We're just normal people who are tired of the exploitation of multinational corporations.
Again, for those who orchestrate these events, it's the illusion that counts.
The familiar media melodrama of the anti-globalization movement that we have seen in Seattle and some of the other protest venues is really a classic example of bracketing an issue with false alternatives, because we're told that these are people who oppose the global agenda. After all, they're called anti-globalization activists. Well, what is it that they oppose? They don't oppose global government. They believe that there is too much free market capitalism in the world and that government at a global level, has to be more assertive in imposing controls over the free exchange of goods and services.
But you see that both of these sides are really calling for empowering the United Nations.
The media further stage manages the illusion of conflict by promoting those designated as the official opposition.
I'm going to focus on what the other side says and then what you say back.
The media-appointed spokesperson for the anti-WTO forces is Lori Wallach. She heads up Global Trade Watch. Ignored by the media is the fact that Wallach's organization receives funding from the Ford Foundation, which is closely tied to the CFR. The friendly relationship between Wallach and the CFR agenda was made clear in Foreign Policy magazine, a major conduit for CFR thinking. This issue signals media leaders that Lori Wallach should be represented as an expert on trade issues. By ensuring that only false opposition is offered to its revolutionary agenda, the CFR internationalists can't lose.
That's definitely what they want you to believe.